Good afternoon, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. This is Rich again, back for your second video blog of the day for Sunday, September 27, 2015, around 4:59 in the afternoon, Billerica, Massachusetts. Sunny out in the 60s, and it's a perfect fall day and stuff. Some news to report. New England Patriots crushed the Jacksonville Jaguars by the score 51-17. Tom Brady threw for his 400th touchdown pass of his NFL career, only the fourth quarterback ever to do that, and the Patriots have scored on all the possessions today. Patriots have a bye next week. And also, other news, the Boston Red Sox beat the Baltimore Orioles by a score of 2-0. The Orioles scored 0 runs in the series. Red Sox swept them, which is pretty good. And the last game at Fenway Park, so they play the rest of the season, 7 more games on the road and stuff. The Red Sox gain momentum for next year, which they could be very good, I hope. And also, there was a big fight today in the Washington Nationals dugout between outfielder Bryce Harper and closer Jonathan Papelbon. They came the blows. This not good. Very, very disappointing season by the Nationals. Many people were pegging them to win the NL East by 20 games and be a serious World Series contender. Some people were saying they were going to win the World Series this year, but they're going to miss the playoffs. Matt Williams, their manager, who was voted Manager of the Year by the National League last year, is probably going to be losing his job. He's probably going to be on the unemployment line. As Vince McMahon says, Matt Williams, you're fired! And this team is probably going to be imploded this offseason, and it could be a long rebuilding process for the Nationals, and probably the Mets are now fully in charge of the NL East for years to come. And that's about it on the news. My second video blog subject of the day is my review of the last WCW Fall Brawl pay-per-view. It was Fall Brawl 2000 from Buffalo, New York, from the HSBC Arena. And the main event for this Fall Brawl was Booker T challenging for the WCW World title against Big Sexy Kevin Nash. Plus, there were other matches on the card, and this was the second straight year that War Games was not the main event for Fall Brawl, which was disappointing and stuff. This, the continued downhill of WCW and stuff like that. No dark matches. Calling the action was Tony Schiavone, Scott Hudson, and Mark Madden. And here's the matches that happened on the pay-per-view. The first match was for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. It was Kiwi with Paisley, who is Shamel Kaufman, Booker T's real-life wife, who was facing off, challenging against the champion of the Cruiserweight. Champion was Eli Skipper with Major Guns. And this was a decent match and stuff. Back and forth. Ending had the Natural Born Thrillers on stage, and Mike Sanders of the Natural Born Thrillers interfered when the referee was behind the back and attacked Kiwi, and Eli Skipper gave Kiwi the over ending for the 1, 2, 3 to retain the Cruiserweight Championship. So much interference. The next match was the Misfits in action. Chavo Guerrero Jr., Lash LaRue, and The Wall facing off against 3 Count, which was Sugar Shane Helms, Shannon Moore, and Evan Courageous. This was a decent tag team match. Ending had Lash LaRue give the Death Valley Driver to Sugar Shane Helms for the 1, 2, 3. Another tag team match was this. It was a First Blood chain match, which was not advertised on the pay-per-view until now. It was Chronic, who was Brian Adams, and Brian Clark facing off against twin brothers Ron and Don Harris. They were actually Gerald and Patrick, Creative Control and stuff, but now they're using their real names, and it was a First Blood match. It was a okay match, and actually the Harris brothers was bleeding at first, but the referee did not see the bleeding, and then Brian Adams is bleeding, and the referee turns around, see Brian Adams bleeding, calls for the bell, and Ron and Don Harris win this match. It was an awful way to end the match. The next match was WCW United States Championship. It was Lance Storm, the WCW World Champion, a part of Team Canada with Major Guns, facing off against Hugh Morris, who was head of the Misfits in Action. He was using the name General Election, and he had a special guest referee for this match. They had Hacksaw Jim Duggan, as a special guest referee, and then General Election says he was going to save Major Guns from Team Canada, and Lance Storm and stuff. And this was a decent United States title match, but there was a shocking ending. Hacksaw Jim Duggan turned on General Election by hitting the 2x4 off the top rope, and they Hacksaw Jim Duggan ripped his referee's shirt, and he had a maple leaf, and he was part of Team Canada. So Lance Storm retained the United States Championship, and the crowd was booing and stuff like that. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, as a Canadian sympathizer, was very, very awful in my opinion, but this was typical WCW 2000 shock value. Vince Russo booking this stuff terrible. The next match was an elimination tag team match. It was this team. Big Vito, Disco Inferno, Rey Mysterio Jr., Juventud Guerrero, and their surprise partner, Paul Mr. Wonderful Orndorff, facing off against the Natural Born Thrillers, Mike Saunders, Sean O'Hara, Chuck Palumbo, Sean Stasiak, Johnny the Bull, and Reno. This was an elimination tag team match, and this was only a 16-minute match. It was stopped because Paul Orndorff did a pile driver, and he suffered a legitimate injury after doing the pile driver. Paul Orndorff actually had a condition with his arm that's one of his arms is shorter than the other one, and he suffered kind of a seizure and stuff like that. So they had to stop this match at 16 minutes or so it was declared a no contest. It was, kind of a Survivor Series type elimination match, and nothing big happened about that except his injury. The next match was a scaffold match. It was Shane Douglas and Tori facing off against Billy Kidman and Medusa. This was an awful scaffold match and stuff. It was quick. It was only about 5 minutes. Shane Douglas and Tori won this match. They were doing shades of the old Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, when we would have scaffold matches a lot. The next match was a handicap match. It was the Great Muta and Vampiro with the Insane Clown Posse facing against the franchise of WCW Sting. Sting wins this one. This was a forgettable match and stuff. Sting and Vampiro were having a long-running feud towards the dying days of WCW. It was awful and stuff like that. And that was it. The next match was Mike Awesome, who was using the gimmick That 70s Guy, which was awful. He also used a fat chick thriller gimmick, another awful one. And they were burying him, facing off against the Chosen One, Jeff Jarrett, in a bunkhouse match. Another flashback to the old Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling days when they had bunkhouse matches. Mike Awesome wins this one. It's a forgettable match. The next match was an old disqualification match. It was Scott Steiner with Vince Russo and Miriam Majaya, whatever they call her, facing off against Bill Goldberg. And this was another forgettable match. Scott Steiner wins via TKO for Goldberg. An awful match. And the main event was for the WCW World Title in a 15-foot high steel cage. It was the challenger, Booker T, five-time WCW World Champion, facing off against Big Sexy Kevin Nash. Too sweet! And this match was, only about 10 minutes and stuff, back and forth. Booker T used the bookend on Kevin Nash for the 1, 2, 3 to become new WCW World Champion. That was the final WCW Fall Brawl match ever. And this pay-per-view was an F. This WCW pay-per-views in 2000 and 2001 The Pits. It makes like Halloween Havoc 1995, Great American Batch 1991 5-star classic pay-per-views, and compared to the to WCW in 2000 and 2001, which when, you know, Vince Russo writing all over it. It was awful, awful, awful. And that's about it on these pay-per-view reviews. Next month, I'm going to do pay-per-view reviews of NWA, WCW, Halloween Havoc sometime in the middle of October. And you're going to get all 12 of them reviewed, including the infamous 1995 one. And that's about it. Third and final video blog of the night coming up. It's going to be about former Entertainment Tonight co-host Mary Hart. And like I always say, keep calm, everybody. I'm Julie Button Guy. Molly Rosenblatt of Fox 35 Rocks and has nice legs. Elizabeth Hart, so cute. Amy's Wednesday, so hot. And Heidi Pratt has the nicest legs in the world. And in the words of Razor Ramon, former WWE Intercontinental Champion and WWE Hall of Famer, say hello to the bad guy. Bye.